Welcome to our channel. Today, we're exploring the stories of 16 celebrities who vanished under the most baffling circumstances. From a famous rock musician to a fearless war reporter, each of these disappearances is packed with twists, turns, and unanswered questions. 1. Richie Edwards. Richie Edwards was not only a talented guitarist but also the lyricist for the Manic Street Preachers. His lyrics were often dark, touching on topics like alienation, depression, and existential struggles. People who listened to the Manic Street Preachers back in the 1990s could feel the intensity of Edwards's emotions in every line he wrote. But no one could have predicted that these very feelings would eventually lead to one of the most mysterious disappearances in rock history. On February 1, 1995, Edwards vanished without a trace. He was last seen leaving his London hotel room. The band was set to go on an American tour, but Edwards never showed up. His car was later found near the Severn Bridge, a known spot for suicides, but there was no sign of him. Many have speculated that Edwards took his own life. This theory became even more believable because of his history of mental health struggles and self-harm. Some who knew him personally said that he had been in a very dark place in the months leading up to his disappearance. However, there are many others who don't believe this version of the story. They think that Edwards could have staged his disappearance. Maybe he wanted to leave his old life behind and start fresh somewhere else. After all, nobody was ever found. There were several supposed sightings of Edwards over the years, but none of them were confirmed. Some said they saw him in places like Goa, India, but it was impossible to prove if it was really him. His family and friends were left in a painful limbo, not knowing whether to grieve or to hope. Edwards was officially declared dead in absentia in 2008, but for many fans and loved ones, the mystery remains alive. 2. Jean Spangler. Jean Spangler's disappearance is one of Hollywood's most haunting unsolved mysteries. She was a rising star in the late 1940s. Although her roles were mostly small, she had a presence on screen that hinted at a promising future. But all of that changed on the night of October 7, 1949. Spangler left her home in Los Angeles, telling her sister-in-law that she was going to meet her ex-husband and possibly head to a film shoot afterward. She was never seen again. When her family reported her missing, the police launched a search, but there were very few clues to go on. 2 days after Spangler disappeared, her purse was found in Griffith Park, a vast green area in Los Angeles. The strap was broken, as if it had been torn off during a struggle. What made the case even more puzzling was a note found inside the purse, addressed to someone named Kirk. The note read, "Can't wait any longer, going to see Dr. Scott. It will work best this way while Mother is away." This cryptic message led investigators down a rabbit hole of speculation. Some thought that the Kirk mentioned in the note could have been actor Kirk Douglas, a major Hollywood star at the time, but Douglas denied knowing anything about Spangler's disappearance. Then there was the mention of a doctor, which led some to believe that Spangler could have been pregnant and seeking an illegal abortion, a dangerous and taboo subject in the 1940s. The police also looked into her ex-husband, Dexter Benner, with whom Spangler had a contentious relationship, particularly over the custody of their daughter. But Benner had a solid alibi, and the investigation reached a dead end. Organized crime was another theory that emerged. Spangler had reportedly dated some men with mob connections, and people wondered if she had become entangled in something dangerous. In the years that followed, various rumors surfaced about Spangler possibly fleeing to another country, but no evidence was ever found. 3. Bison Dele. Bison Dele was a unique figure in the world of sports and Hollywood. Born Brian Williams, he changed his name to honor his Native American and African heritage. As a professional basketball player, Dele achieved great success, even winning an NBA championship with the Chicago Bulls in 1997. But despite his achievements on the court, Dele was always searching for more. He retired from basketball at the height of his career, choosing to pursue a life of adventure. He briefly dabbled in acting and modeling, but ultimately his love for travel and sailing became his main focus. Dele's life seemed like one of freedom, but it took a tragic turn when he disappeared while sailing in the South Pacific in 2002. Dele set sail with his girlfriend, Serena Carlin, the boat's captain, Bertrand Saldo, and his brother, Miles Dabord. They were on a journey many would envy, exploring the world's most remote and beautiful locations. But something went terribly wrong. In July 2002, Dabord returned to the US alone, sailing the boat by himself. He later used his brother's identity to make large purchases, raising suspicion. When authorities started investigating, Dabord fled before he could be questioned further. He died of an apparent overdose. The case grew more chilling as it became clear that something terrible had happened on that boat. Many believe that Dabord killed his brother, Carlin, and Saldo during an argument. But because no bodies were ever recovered, there was no definitive proof. Fourth, Brandon Lawson wasn't a celebrity in the traditional sense, but his disappearance has become well known because of the eerie circumstances and the strange 911 call he made on the night of August 9, 2013. Lawson was a 26-year-old father of 4 from Texas. He had been in a relationship with his longtime girlfriend for over a decade, but that night something went wrong. After an argument with his girlfriend, Lawson left the house and headed out on a long drive, but he didn't get far. His truck ran out of gas on a desolate road near Bronte, Texas. What happened next made his case one of the most puzzling missing persons stories in recent history. Around midnight, Lawson made a frantic 911 call. His voice was shaky and hard to understand, but he told the dispatcher that he was in trouble and that someone was chasing him. Lawson's call was filled with confusion and fear, but before he could give any clear information about where he was, the call dropped. His family tried to reach him multiple times, but all they got were garbled messages. Lawson's truck was later found abandoned by the side of the road, but there was no sign of him. Search parties combed the area, but nothing was found, no clues, no tracks, and no sign of a struggle. Some people believe that Lawson was hallucinating due to drugs or exhaustion, others think he might have stumbled upon something dangerous, like drug smugglers or criminals in that remote area. The 911 call remains a crucial piece of the puzzle, but it only raises more questions. 5. Glenn Miller. Glenn Miller was one of the most famous big band leaders of the 1940s. His music had a unique sound, and songs like In the Mood and Moonlight Serenade became the soundtrack of a generation. But Miller was not only an entertainer, he was also a patriot. When World War II broke out, Miller put his music career on hold and joined the U.S. military. He led the Army Air Force Band and traveled to different bases, boosting soldiers' morale with his music. In December 1944, Miller was supposed to fly from England to France, where he was scheduled to perform for the troops. But he never made it to his destination. His plane disappeared over the English Channel, and neither Miller nor the aircraft was ever found. The disappearance of Glenn Miller shocked the world. How could someone so famous, flying on what was supposed to be a routine military flight, just vanish without a trace? There were several theories about what could have happened. Some believed the plane went down in bad weather, others thought it might have been shot down by friendly fire during the chaotic wartime conditions. There were even rumors that Miller had been on a secret mission for the U.S. government, but there was no evidence to support this. The mystery only deepened as the years went by. Searches for the wreckage turned up nothing. Despite the passage of time, Miller's family, friends, and fans never gave up hope of finding out what really happened to him. 6. Patrick McDermott. Patrick McDermott was a cinematographer known for his work behind the camera, but he became widely recognized after his mysterious disappearance on June 30, 2005. He was dating the famous singer and actress Olivia Newton-John at the time, which added to the media attention. On the day of his disappearance, McDermott went on a fishing trip off the California coast with 22 other people. The trip, on a boat called Freedom, was supposed to be a normal day out, but McDermott was never seen again. After he didn't return from the trip, Olivia Newton-John and others became very concerned. It took 10 days for anyone to report him missing, which was strange because his absence wasn't immediately noticed by the other passengers. That delay cost authorities valuable time. Investigators later discovered that McDermott had left behind his personal belongings, including his wallet, keys, and passport on the boat. This seemed to indicate he didn't plan to vanish. As time passed, though, things became less clear. The Coast Guard conducted extensive searches, but no sign of McDermott's body was ever found. It seemed possible he had drowned, but the lack of remains left room for other theories. One theory that gained traction was that McDermott faked his death to escape personal and financial problems. He had declared bankruptcy in 2000 and owed child support payments to his ex-wife. This led some to suspect he might have wanted a fresh start. Rumors circulated that he was living under a different name in Mexico. Over the years, several sightings of McDermott were reported there, and private investigators hired by tabloids claimed they had proof of his new life. Despite these claims, however, no concrete evidence surfaced to confirm them. 7. Connie Converse. Connie Converse was a folk singer and songwriter, and her disappearance in August 1974 has baffled people for decades. Born Elizabeth Eaton Converse in 1924, she moved to New York City in the 1950s to pursue a music career. But unlike many artists who make it big, Connie Converse never achieved widespread recognition during her lifetime. Her songs were haunting and unique, yet the music industry at the time was focused on other genres. By the early 1970s, Converse had become disheartened by her lack of success. She had spent years writing and performing, but she felt she wasn't getting anywhere. This sense of failure weighed heavily on her, eventually leading her to make a drastic decision. In the summer of 1974, Converse packed up her belongings, wrote letters to her friends and family, and disappeared without a trace. In her letters, she expressed sadness and frustration with life. She told her loved ones that she was going to leave and that they should not try to find her. It's unclear if she intended to end her life or simply start anew somewhere else. What is certain is that no one ever heard from her again. Converse wasn't a household name when she vanished, but her music has gained much more recognition in the years since. People have rediscovered her work, and she is now considered a pioneer of the singer-songwriter genre. Her songs, ahead of their time, resonate with listeners who relate to the loneliness and melancholy in her lyrics. Many theories have been proposed about what happened to Converse. Some believe she took her own life, while others think she may have settled in a new place and lived quietly. There were no clues suggesting foul play, so her disappearance seems to have been a personal decision. It remains especially tragic because she vanished just as her music was beginning to be appreciated. Had she stayed in the public eye a little longer, she might have found the recognition she longed for. 8. Tara Grinstead. Tara Grinstead was a former beauty queen and aspiring actress who disappeared on October 22, 2005, in one of the most baffling cases of the early 2000s. Born in Hawkinsville, Georgia, on November 14, 1974, she grew up with a passion for pageantry and teaching. Tara won several titles, including Miss Tifton in 1999, and was also a beloved high school history teacher. On the day she vanished, Tara had attended a beauty pageant and then went to a barbecue at a friend's house. After leaving the barbecue, she returned home. The next day, she didn't show up for work, and her coworkers became concerned. Friends and family tried calling, but there was no response. When they went to her house, they found her car parked in the driveway and her purse and keys inside, but no sign of Tara. Investigators quickly got involved, but there were no immediate clues, no signs of forced entry or struggle, and nothing seemed to be missing. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and the search for Tara grew more desperate. Friends, family, and community members organized searches but found nothing. For years, Tara's disappearance remained a mystery. Some thought she had been abducted by a stranger, others believed someone she knew was involved. The case went cold, and investigators hit repeated dead ends. Then, in 2017, more than a decade after she went missing, the case saw a major breakthrough. New evidence led to the arrest of two men, Ryan Duke and Bo Dukes. According to authorities, Ryan Duke confessed to killing Tara after breaking into her home to rob her. When things went wrong, he claimed he accidentally killed her. Bo Dukes was accused of helping dispose of Tara's body by burning it in a rural area. 9. Bobby Fuller. Bobby Fuller's life ended under mysterious circumstances decades earlier, on July 18, 1966. Fuller was the lead singer and guitarist of the Bobby Fuller Four, a rock band best known for their hit single, I Fought the Law. Born on October 22, 1942, in Baytown, Texas, he grew up loving music, inspired by Buddy Holly and other rock and roll pioneers. By his teenage years, he was performing in local bands. Moving to Los Angeles in the early 1960s, Bobby formed the Bobby Fuller Four with his brother Randy and two other musicians. The band gained popularity, especially after releasing I Fought the Law in 1966. Success seemed inevitable, but it all ended suddenly and tragically that summer. On the day of his death, Bobby Fuller was found in his car outside his apartment in Los Angeles. He had been missing for several hours. At first glance, it looked like he died from inhaling gasoline fumes, and his death was officially ruled accidental asphyxiation. But suspicions arose almost immediately. The circumstances were unusual. Bobby's body was found in the front seat, his face and chest were bruised, and it looked like gasoline had been poured over him. These details made an accidental death seem unlikely, yet the police were quick to close the case. Friends and family believed he had been murdered. One theory suggested his death was related to organized crime figures tied to the music industry. Another was that he'd been caught in a personal conflict that led to his murder. Yet no evidence ever surfaced to prove these theories. Officially, Bobby Fuller's death remains an accident. 10. Tammy Lynn Leppert imagined being a rising star in Hollywood, modeling, acting, and even landing a bit part in the iconic film Scarface, only to vanish without a trace. That's exactly what happened to Tammy Lynn Leppert, an 18-year-old actress and beauty queen who disappeared on July 6, 1983. Born in Florida, Tammy started modeling as a child and later appeared in a few movies, catching everyone's attention with her striking looks. But in the months leading up to her disappearance, those close to Tammy noticed a sudden change in her behavior. She reportedly became anxious and fearful, telling friends and family that she felt threatened, though she never explained exactly why. Then one day, Tammy got into a car with a friend in Cocoa Beach, and was never seen again. Despite numerous theories, including the possibility that she witnessed something dangerous in Hollywood or got tangled up with the wrong crowd, her case remains unsolved. No body, no solid evidence, and only whispered rumors. Tammy Lynn Leppert's story continues to haunt those who remember her short but promising career, and the chilling mystery that surrounds her final days. 11. Judge Joseph Force Crater. Judge Joseph Force Crater's disappearance on August 6, 1930, became one of the most notorious missing persons cases of the 20th century. Born in Easton, Pennsylvania, in 1889, Crater was a successful lawyer who had been appointed to the New York Supreme Court only months before he vanished. He was known for his sharp legal mind and for his connections to political power brokers and New York nightlife. His sudden disappearance shocked the city and earned him the nickname the missingest man in New York. On the day he vanished, Crater had lunch with a fellow judge and later met with his mistress, showgirl Sally Lou Ritz. That evening, he dined with two friends at a popular restaurant on West 45th Street. After dinner, he reportedly hailed a cab, told his friends he was heading to a Broadway show, and was never seen again. When Crater failed to return home, his wife, Stella, grew concerned. At first, she didn't report him missing, thinking he might be tied up with work or staying with friends. It wasn't until weeks later that the police were notified. Crater's disappearance quickly made front-page news, involving a prominent judge with connections to the city's political elite. Rumors about his fate abounded. Some believed he was murdered because he knew too much about corruption. Others speculated he ran away to avoid scandal, given his ties to organized crime and political figures. Another theory suggested he staged his own disappearance to escape financial troubles, but this was less credible. Despite an extensive investigation, the police found no solid leads. Crater's bank account remained untouched, and his wife offered a reward for information. Nothing conclusive ever emerged. Over the years, people claimed to see Crater in Canada and the Caribbean, but none of these sightings were confirmed. 12. Theodosia Burr Alston. Born in 1783, Theodosia Burr Alston was the daughter of one of the most controversial figures in American history, Aaron Burr, the third Vice President of the United States, best known for killing Alexander Hamilton in a duel. Despite her father's tarnished reputation, Theodosia grew up in privilege and was highly educated for a woman of her time. She married Joseph Alston, a wealthy planter from South Carolina, and became the First Lady of South Carolina when he was elected governor. Theodosia was a beloved figure, known for her intelligence, beauty, and charm. However, her life was marked by tragedy. She lost her son, Aaron Burr Alston, to malaria in 1812, which devastated her. In hopes of aiding her recovery, her father arranged for her to travel from South Carolina to New York to visit him. The journey was meant to bring her some solace, but it ended in disaster when she vanished at sea. Theodosia set sail on the schooner Patriot from Georgetown, South Carolina, on December 31, 1812, bound for New York. The ship never arrived. Everyone on board disappeared without a trace. Some speculated a storm sank the vessel, others believed pirates attacked it. 13. Jimmy Hoffa. Jimmy Hoffa, one of the most powerful and controversial labor leaders in American history, disappeared on July 30, 1975. He served as president of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, the largest and most influential labor union in the U.S. at the time. Hoffa's life was a mix of ambition, political maneuvering, and alleged criminal activity, culminating in his connections to organized crime. On the day he vanished, Hoffa was supposed to meet two mafia figures, Anthony Tony Jack Giacalone and Anthony Tony Pro Provenzano, at the Machu's Red Fox restaurant in Bloomfield Township, Michigan. Hoffa hoped to discuss regaining control of the Teamsters after serving time in prison for jury tampering and fraud. Although he was officially banned from union activities, he was determined to reclaim his power. Hoffa arrived at the restaurant around 2 p.m. and waited for Giacalone and Provenzano, but they never showed up. According to witnesses, Hoffa made a phone call from a nearby pay phone, expressing frustration about the no-show. That was the last time anyone saw him. His car was found unlocked in the restaurant parking lot, but there was no sign of him. The FBI launched one of its largest investigations ever, interviewing hundreds of people and following countless leads. Still, no solid evidence emerged. Hoffa's ties to organized crime fueled theories that the mafia killed him to stop him from regaining the Union presidency or revealing secrets. Over the years, various confessions and leads, ranging from him being buried under a stadium to being incinerated, have popped up. None have been proven. In 1982, Hoffa was declared legally dead, though his body has never been found. 14. Adrienne Shelly. Adrienne Shelly was born Adrienne Levine in Queens, New York, in 1966. She pursued a career in acting and quickly became known for her work in independent films, notably starring in Hal Hartley's 1989 film The Unbelievable Truth. Shelley's talent and unique presence on screen made her a favorite in the indie scene. She continued acting throughout the 1990s and early 2000s, but she also had ambitions beyond acting. She wanted to write and direct. By 2006, Shelley had transitioned into a successful writer-director. Her most notable achievement was Waitress, a heartfelt movie she wrote, directed, and co-starred in. It tells the story of a pregnant woman in an abusive marriage looking for a new start. Waitress premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in 2007 to critical acclaim, but Shelley never got to see its success. On November 1, 2006, she was found hanging in the bathroom of her apartment by her husband. At first, it looked like suicide. But her husband refused to believe it and urged authorities to investigate further. Soon, they uncovered the truth. Shelley had been murdered by a construction worker named Diego Pilco, who had been working in the building. In his confession, Pilco said he confronted her after she complained about the noise. The situation escalated, he struck her, and fearing the consequences, he staged the scene to look like a suicide. 15. Sean Flynn. Sean Flynn, the son of legendary actor Errol Flynn, disappeared on April 6, 1970, while working as a photojournalist during the Vietnam War. Unlike his father, known for swashbuckling Hollywood roles, Sean chose a different path. Drawn to adventure, he was determined to document war rather than star in movies. Born in 1941, Flynn grew up in his famous father's shadow but was passionate about photography. He briefly followed Errol Flynn into acting, appearing in a few films in the 1960s, yet his true calling was journalism. He became a war correspondent, covering conflicts in Africa and the Middle East before heading to Vietnam. By then, Flynn had earned a reputation as a fearless journalist, willing to go to great lengths for the perfect shot. On April 6, 1970, Flynn and fellow journalist Dana Stone were traveling on motorcycles in Cambodia when they were captured by communist forces, likely the Viet Cong or the Khmer Rouge. They were never seen again. Their disappearance shocked the journalism community. Both men were well known and respected for their work. Despite numerous searches and investigations, no trace of Flynn or Stone ever turned up. 16. Dorothy Arnold. Dorothy Arnold's disappearance on December 12, 1910, is one of the most puzzling cases in American history. Born into a wealthy and influential family, Dorothy was a well-known socialite in New York City. She was the daughter of Francis Arnold, a successful perfume importer, and her family had deep roots in American high society. Despite her privileged background, Dorothy aspired to become a writer, though she faced multiple rejections from publishers. On the day she disappeared, Dorothy left her family's home on the Upper East Side to go shopping. She was seen by several acquaintances throughout the day, buying chocolates, purchasing a book, appearing to be in good spirits with no hint of a plan to leave or harm herself. After leaving a bookstore, she walked down Fifth Avenue and then vanished without a trace. When Dorothy didn't return home that evening, her family grew concerned. They first tried to handle the situation quietly, suspecting she might have gone to visit friends or taken a short trip. As hours turned to days, however, it became clear something was terribly wrong. They hired private detectives, but found no solid leads. Initially, they kept the police out of it to avoid public scandal, but eventually they had no choice but to involve law enforcement. Various theories emerged. Some thought Dorothy had committed suicide over her failed literary ambitions, others believed she was a victim of foul play. Another rumor suggested she had become pregnant out of wedlock and been murdered to cover up the scandal. There were also claims she had run away to Europe. Despite exhaustive searches and numerous interviews, no solid evidence ever came to light, and Dorothy Arnold became yet another unsolved disappearance. And there you have it, 16 lives, each with its own legacy and an ending that remains a mystery. What do you think happened in these cases? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed unraveling these unsolved stories, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's most puzzling events. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious.